You just gotta
Hey
let
yo,
go.
Oh,
everyone, shut the Merry Christmas. I hope your nuts are roasting over an open fire. Varys nuts did, but he's better for it, right? He had a great time. Eunuchs unite! Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy Fire and Blood Day, or whatever you want to call it. That could be blasphemous. Uh, I know I'm just making a mockery of words right now, and the grammar smith John St. Baptiste is very irritated. And now he has his
Not
phone
in the
on, and
slightest.
hey, he's pulling the old switcheroo on me. Uh, MackenzieLBurns, how are you doing this morning, or lunchtime, or Merry Christmas?
I'm doing very well, Johnny, and I like the new setup that you have. But yes, I'm doing
Oh, of
good
course you
today.
do.
Doing really really good today, and can't wait to talk about Fire and Blood on Christmas Day. So, yes.
So, without further ado, I'll introduce my. Fuck it. I guess he's my best friend. Fucking John St. Baptiste. Cylon number 7. He has his iron rod on for me, but he's the man. How's it going, Attila Angel? Merry Christmas. But yes, I'm gonna go open some presents real quick, and my family here on the panel is gonna take over for me. And I'll be back in about 15 minutes. Much love.
Much love, Johnny.
Much love,
So,
Johnny.
Merry Christmas, John.
Merry
But
Christmas to you, Mackenzie.
so we have this massive book by George R. R. Martin, Archmaester Blyden, and it starts off by talking about Aegon, the presumably one of the more famous of House Targaryen, which kind of starts off their arrival into not only Westeros, but who a lot of the characters now talk about, even though none of them alive know about him. So, I guess we could talk about before the book, um, before this one. What was your presumed thought about Aegon?
Well, with Aegon, I've always thought of him kind of if you get into Western history, I've always kind of thought of him as Octavian or Augustus, whichever term you'd like to use. Like, there were other Targaryens, there were certainly other Valerians before. None of them had really been to Westeros, but Aegon was the one who came in and, yeah, he had an iron fist inside a velvet glove and really set up the rulership of the six, arguably seven kingdoms. So that was what I went to into this looking at. But you don't know much about him, and I think that's one of the great things about the book is it kind of gives some insight into his character. Now, granted, as we're going to talk about in a little while here, it's very skewed insight into his character, but you see him more as a person than as somebody who is just a historical character. A lot of people have been kind of turned off by this book, A, because they're like, oh, we need the Winds of Winter, or because they're like, oh, it's just a history book. But it actually portrays these characters as real people. It's not just a bunch of cold hard facts, and so when I went into it, I was kind of expecting that, and that's absolutely not what happened. I read this in three sittings. I read like the first 50 or so pages, which we're covering today, and then like a day or two later, I read like 600 pages and didn't sleep because I'm really good at reading too much and not sleeping. That's like my mutant power. And then I finished it up. So yeah, it was essentially three sittings that I read this in. But I was Yeah, very pleasantly surprised because I was expecting something a lot more dry, kind of like the World of Ice and Fire, which is great and it gives so much background info, but it's kind of dry read. So this was you actually care about these people.
Yeah, exactly. Because Fire and Blood more or less is more of a novel. It's like almost in between a novel and World of Ice and Fire because you get so much detail from what I've read. Because I read a lot of it, but you get a lot more detail about characters that you sort of know the names of based off of, especially like Aegon. You get a lot of references to him in the main story, but not enough where you like can deeply understand them. And we all know that George does characters very, very well. And yeah, so going into this, I was kind of like one of those people who was like, okay, this is history on the Targaryen family starting with at this point. I was like, that's pretty cool because as prevalent in the story, there's only like at the time of the beginning of Game of Thrones, there's technically three, maybe three confirmed ish Targaryen, like two confirmed Targaryens alive, with speculation of others. So you're just trying to figure like, and the because before this main story there were so many of them, so it's like trying to go back and piece together these people that are very important to the storyline. And one of the characters that we have in the main storyline, Daenerys, can be seen and connected to Aegon. So to know his story with his sister wives is just completely awesome. That's what I like about going into this. Is just you're just able to discover basically a story from characters that are technically outside of the main story. Because I remember George saying that he's like he created this book um, based on the fact that he gave his characters lineages because and important lineages because he said like with most writers they use the characters that are within their story, give them maybe two ancestors, and that's it. They don't talk about the ones from in this part 300 years ago. So to go back 300 years from the main story, it's pretty awesome. So I guess we can talk about the first part, which is the dates of Aegon's conquest and the dates around Aegon itself. So, if you want to start off with that.
Yeah. So a lot of people consider the beginning of Aegon's reign to be when he landed in King's Landing, and even the Targaryens didn't consider it that. They were like, no, it was 2 years later. They chronicle it from the when Aegon was crowned by the High Septon in Old Town. So just that 2 year gap, like it gives you a sense of the differences in history. It's like people think of 1066 is when William William the Conqueror, um, you conquered England, but it took him like another 3 years to pull shit together and make it all, a cohesive thing. And then it took another 10 years before it was actually like a cohesive nation. Um, so you see that. Um, you also, I think the way the book's written, it gives you more realistic sense of the people who are involved in it. I still think it's skewed as can be. We'll go back into that, I think, when Johnny gets back. But Maester Garon, like he's a fanboy. He's a big Aegon fanboy. Um, but I love that it points out like immediately right away it's like people consider this to be when this happened, but actually when it happened was like 2 years later. Um, and another thing that rarely gets touched on in A Song of Ice and Fire is that the Targaryens had been living for 100 years on Dragonstone, and Dragonstone had always been the western outpost of the Valyrian Empire. Like it had been from the beginning for years and years and years, long before the Targaryens were like, "Oh, hey, yeah, the place is gonna blow up. Let's get out of here."
Especially too because they were a minor house in Valyria. They were just like everybody else, pretty much. And because of Dany's the Dreamer and them going west and surviving the Doom of Valyria, it created what we know today, especially with what has happened. And then when Aegon finally decides, like, what is west of Dragonstone? Like almost Arya with her "What's west of Westeros" um, situation. And by this point, too, uh, Aegon gets married to his two sisters because they were married before, I believe, the conquest. So that's a dynamic which the Maesters were talking about as a thing where it was like they expected him to marry one, but not both of them. And he obviously marries Rhaenys over Visenya first, so because of that. So if we want to talk about his queens before we go to the conqueror part, because I know Johnny will want to talk about that too.
Yeah, well, it once again it goes back to the fact that this is history written after it happened by an external observer. But you always think, Visenya is always described as like the hard ass.
Visenya is
Like,
the ghost of High Heart.
like we're all on Silent Johns. Like Visenya's like Starbuck, and then Rhaenys is written as like this like caring, and she likes music, and she likes it's kind of funny. But then you have those touching moments, like you have the moment during the conquest of the Eyrie where Visenya is the one who says, oh hey, hop up on my dragon, I'll take you for a ride.
Yeah,
Like,
3 laps is all it took to conquer the Vale of Arryn.
well, and speaking of three, I mean,
And
this kind of makes them three-dimensional characters, and I really like that. I think that's probably my favorite thing about this book is that it takes these characters who are, when you're reading the Ice and Fire, they're people in the past and so forth who are just like musty characters in a history book, and they actually take them and make them three-dimensional. Whether it's skewed or not, it still makes them three-dimensional characters.
Yeah, it's less like a actual history book and more of like a novel. Johnny, we asked the question of what was your perception of Aegon before you entered into Fire and Blood? That was the question that we started off with.
Well, my perception of Aegon was a screaming family in the background. Oh my god! No. It seems like he was this knight in shining armor that all the people loved, but only the High Lords hated. It sounded a lot to me, a lot like the shit Viserys was spewing to Dany. I don't know if y'all touched on that, but it seemed to me that it was a little too much. But if you read between the lines in here, you can see that he made his progressions, and he only flew Balerion to either intimidate someone or to battle. That's pretty much it. Or to get somewhere really fast. Other than that, he did not ride. Now he was a prolific warrior, and we honestly don't know how good Single combat, he is. But we hear that he was great. But we know that Oris Baratheon was a badass. So, and Oris Baratheon was supposedly. Wouldn't you say it comes off that he's probably a better fighter than Aegon? Would you agree with that, John? At least in his heyday.
Yeah, that, and I think he was more just of a warrior mindset. I don't think he really necessarily thought about the long game. You know, it kind
Very
of
true.
like sins of the father.
Like his forebears.
You know, it's kind of like Bobby Baratheon. Like, didn't really think about any of the consequences of.
Ooh, Aegon is Ned, and then you have Sansa as Rhaenys and Arya as Visenya. Would that be a semi-apt comparison? Except Ned may be a little stupider.
Yeah, Ned's pretty dumb. I mean, I like the guy,
But we don't know
he's,
how dumb Aegon was. He did have. If Ned had a dragon, they might not have had as much trouble either.
Yeah.
So.
People always like make the season 8 if they're gonna make him go full-fledged. Aegon is Jon, and that his two sisters are Arya and Sansa. So instead of the whole other one, but also they're his sisters. Also, he gets the best of both worlds in both women, not just one in a sense, because Rhaenys was the delicate, more girly, feminine of the two, while rather, like John said, Visenya was more hardcore, more you could say like hardcore and like all that. So he gets kind of best of the both worlds as his wife, even though it is written that he married Rhaenys out of duty, but Visenya out of love, which someone could be married for duty and for love.
Right, he spent 10 nights with Rhaenys for every night he spent with Visenya. But also, the thing about Rhaenys is that she had many male companions or male friends. What were they called in the book, John? Can't remember. It's not like a paramour or
Paramours.
anything. No, it's not
Paramour.
a paramour is what they call it. It was like or consorts. I don't remember how they phrased it in the book like they could or may not be having sex. So it wasn't like they were.
A consort would be married.
I'm trying to think of the word. But
Yeah,
yes,
I think it was paramour, but yeah,
No.
I'm totally.
well, no,
totally
that would be if they actually had an official relationship and the king knew about it, and that's not the
suitors. Suitors. She had many suitors.
Damn word. No, it was she had. Okay, I remember the words now. She had calmly young lads around her.
Suitors,
Around
like
her.
like suitor type thing.
But didn't say the suitors because you talked about how the maester wrote this, so he can't write in a bad term. But I'm pretty sure she was sleeping with them. And Aenys, come on, was Aenys really Aegon's son? Didn't act a lot too much like him. I don't know. You know, Aenys hated Aegon. Never. Aenys hated everything Aegon loved. And then you have Maegor, which maybe there's something there where Maegor's not Aegon's son, but I think Maegor probably is. And then you just had that flip of the coin right there, and he was just a mad bastard.
I think it's a toss-up. Who was the better king, Maegor or Joffrey?
Oh,
but
well, Maegor got more shit done. Bubba Husky says bed warmers.
I had to get that out. I had to get my Joffrey greatest king of all time.
Yeah, and
I had to get it out. Got it out early.
Yeah, Otella you asked that question. It's like if she had other men, then how can we be sure about the true father of her children? Yeah, it's that whole thing. But then there's that other.
Either, and then we get into this a lot when we get into the Dance of Dragons, when we have Alicent Hightower's kids, right? Isn't it Alicent Hightower?
Can't remember.
This married to, or is it Rhaenyra? Oh my gosh, I can't remember. When we get to that, I'll try to remember that a little better.
I think given what you were saying though, for me, no, it's not Sansa, Arya, and Jon. For me, the biggest reflection of the early Targaryens is Jaime is Visenya, and Tyrion is Rhaenys, and Tywin is Aegon.
I would even say Dany is more of an Aegon, and
he never threw tantrums like that.
That you know of. This history is pretty limited when you read it, so we don't know. I don't think he was just nice to everyone like it says. And sure, if you bent the knee, you lived, and he was fair. But if you didn't, you got burned alive, just like Dany. Of course, that's kind of show only at this point. Well, no, she's burned people, but still, like, in a different manner. It's show only that she's burned people for not kneeling, though.
Mm-hmm. I think why a lot of people connect Rhaenys with Sansa, especially in the ending chapters, where I think it's Rhaenys that goes in and conquers the Vale, or makes the Vale bend the knee, is because of the connection to the Lord.
No, Visenya makes the Vale bend the knee.
The Vale. Then like you could do like almost that dichotomy.
Rhaenys marries off. I think Rhaenys does marry Rhaenyra Arryn to combines two houses. Like can't remember who it was, but she wed a lot of people. She was the matchmaker of her day. So that's why she was that. She loved knights. She loved the gallantry. She loved poetry. She loved the harp. I can't remember if she played it or not, but I know she loved it. And that rubbed off onto Aenys, but it just seems like nothing of his father, if that is his father, rubbed off on it.
There could be like a similar situation if this is kind of going slightly off topic, but there could be a situation where one of the sisters of Jon has to bring in, or Aegon has to bring in the Vale, and the one that can smooth the Lord of the Vale, aka their cousin, is Sansa, even though because of his connection to their mother and all that. So it's like, because she was supposed to marry him in like season 4 or something like that, but that never happened, obviously. That like the smoothing, and because also too, she has the connection with the Vale, because she brought the army, or they went because of Baelish. But anyways, I'm rambling.
Yeah. I mean, I think they're interchangeable. I can see what you're going. I think they relate to a lot of different characters in A Song of Ice and Fire. Even thinking about it, we might just be getting stuck into trying to keep it within a family, right? Maybe we should pull it away from there. But I definitely Visenya and Arya. there's no doubt about that. Both dark arts, both fair but vengeful as hell. If you don't have anything to add, you want to talk about the Krakens, John? We know that Krakens exist for sure now.
Oh no, I hate talking about Krakens. Yes, I think it's awesome that we finally get Krakens. That was pretty sweet. But on the same note, the way it's written, it's like you wonder if, I wanted to wait until you got back to discuss it, but you know, this whole story, the way it's written, I mean, it's great and it humanizes these characters, but it's so skewed.
Mm-hmm.
And you wonder how much as a narrator you can trust the maester who's writing it. So, like, is he, especially because he's writing it 100 years later?
How much can you trust any maester?
Not at all. They're
Trust
a
any of them
bunch of gray
bastards.
rats. Bunch of gray rats running around doing their gray rat shit. Like, no, you can't trust any
Yeah.
maester at all.
What is it? The history is like what you want to remember and not what needs to be remembered.
And
Yes.
also, it's skewed by the victors. But, that is, we can go back slightly. I mean, I don't know. I want to meet Harren the Black. He seems, Euron seems like a Harren the Black reincarnated, except we don't have a whole bunch about House Whore. And I don't know. I would like to have some more backstory with them. They seem fierce as shit, man. Uh, besides dragons, this guy was feared everywhere,
Right.
everywhere, other than Aegon. Ors Baratheon was afraid of the man. He attempted to give his hand of his daughter to Aegon, and then give away lands that weren't his to get a damn a pact. But this guy was a bad man, and he ruled the Iron Islands all the way from the Iron Islands to the God's Eye, all the way through the Riverlands. And wow, what do you think? What do you think he did? Because he seemed to be a real hard person, and we know the Iron Islanders of today aren't as badass as the Iron Islanders of old. Just like the Starks aren't near as fierce as the Starks of old, right? Or would you? You could disagree with me. Whatever. It makes for good debate.
Well, I think Harren the Black was more than anything. I don't think he had any special gift or power or anything like that. He was just really good at conquering. He was really good at being an Iron Islander. On the other hand, once you get that shit, what do you do with it? We oppress the people, and then they hate you, and then they overthrow you. Like that's what Iron Islanders do best is
But it
like
would have never
conquer
happened.
people and then piss them off and then get their dicks knocked in the dirt. Like it I mean, and this is coming from a Greyjoy.
Oh yeah,
Like
well, no, it would have taken a while though, because Harrenhal was just completed by him, and without any dragons, there's no way you're taking the place down. It's almost
was it
like trying to take the veil.
six times they had to try and remake it? Five?
I don't remember exactly. I think it was 6, and then basically the 7th time it was destroyed or whatever was
Yeah,
the
like
death of it, like the
Dave
stranger.
came up.
That place is
Yeah.
cursed or something. I wonder if the green men have anything to do with why that place is so cursed.
Yeah, I'm not moving to Harrenhal.
No.
Hell
You're,
no. Oh, I got some
you're
lovely beachfront property on Harrenhal, right on the God's Eye. You'll love it.
A-
It's just-
AK has a kind of cool thought. Um, I think Herod was a badass pirate, and that's all. He took over a certain territory, but he obviously knew his limits. Otherwise, why not conquer the whole of Westeros?
Well, I think, yeah, that's very true. And they were like Vikings. They had to stick more close to water because that's what they did. They didn't really stay in places. But it seems like Harren the Black was different in the aspect where he was building a fortress. That was kind of his life's mission to build Harrenhal. It ended up being his demise. But I kind of think of him as like Victorion when you see how he's battling and how badass he is. I think of him as a little more badass than Victorion as far as that goes. He had to be the Lord Reaver. You definitely have to.
Oh, Johnny froze.
Oh, No, oh wait.
The man that
You may have to
strikes
make
fear in the hearts of everyone.
Johnny. You may have to go back a second in your point because you froze for a second.
Did I freeze, John?
Yes, you did, sir.
Oh,
Which part?
it was just up near the beginning, where it's like talking about like hair and the blackened. One other part I can't remember. Now I can't remember.
Okay, so I think he was the Lord Reaver. I think of him as being a more badass Victorian when we read about, kind of how he reaves and raves. We don't hear too much about Euron. Euron's kind of still a
Right,
little
but
mysterious.
I agree with Alicia. Like he was a good pirate, but he couldn't hold a kingdom together. He couldn't. It's that's my thing. Like over and over and over again, the Iron Islanders. Like, yeah, you conquer this, and then what the fuck are you gonna do with it? Like,
I'm just arguing he's the only one that's tried to do anything with it. He built Harrenhal. He went farther inland than any other Iron Islander.
no, absolutely agreed. I'm
And
just
he would be like the best pirate in history that we know of, but someone that actually, maybe more like a conquistador, in a sense, right? Because I'm sure he wasn't a good dude. I'm not trying to overly praise the man, but of the Iron Islanders, I know he had to be something fierce.
no. I think your Victorian comparison is actually like spot on. It's like I know how to take this thing, but what the fuck am I gonna do with it once I have it?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what am I gonna do with it once I have it? Like, I've pissed everybody off. I don't have any friends, and on top of that, it's like, yeah, oh, I'm good 200 leagues away from the ocean, so like my way of doing things, I can't really do here.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I mean, even if he could bring his fleet at that point with a dragon, you're not going to be able to do anything.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, we talk about Aegon and the conquest, and it's mentioned that he's been. I mean, dragons have been flying over Westeros for far longer than that. Had to for the painted table, right?
Oh, you want my conspiracy theories?
Go
How was
for it.
Old Town built? How was Old Town built? Because it's fused black stone.
It
And
is.
Old
It is.
Town, the base of Old Town has been there for thousands of years.
Well,
So I'm gonna get all LML there for a second.
the Valerians of Driftmark were an ancient
By the way,
lesser house.
David, if you pop on here, David, happy Merry Christmas. I'm always not making fun of you. I'm just like if you get super conspiracy theory, you gotta mention LML.
The Valerians of Driftmark were definitely there beforehand. They were a lesser house. They weren't dragon riders. Then you had, I mean, what's to say another Valerian house didn't go to Old Town, like you say, or even if
High
Valyria
towers
didn't
might be
ran.
Valerians. They might not.
Yeah, you have a lot of. It's hard to say. Even Nettles had the dragon seed, and she looked nothing like Valyrian, but she had Valyrian blood. Uh, well, yeah, when a Baratheon
No, Nettles
married
look
a
like me
Targaryen.
after a night of drinking.
I doubt it. She was from the Summer Isles, or had the um, skin of the Summer Isles, whatever you want to call it, like
Mm-hmm.
Missandei. She looked like Missandei, except
Yeah.
with like a cut on her nose from, I don't know, what is it, from theft, and then She had really crooked teeth. But we'll talk about her later. That's when we get to the dance.
Right.
One of John's favorite characters. Dude,
Yeah, I do love me some Nettles.
have you talked about the yellow toad of Dorne yet?
No.
And
No.
how badass this 80-year-old woman is? And was
Oh,
she
yeah.
built up to make Aegon look better? That's one of my questions to you. And I'm going to take a 5-minute break, and I'll be right back while you'll do that. But I can hear you the whole time, I swear.
Kenzie, I've been talking too much. You take this one. I'll follow you.
I can't really remember much about the yellow toad of Dorne, but
Well, you'll make me come back, and I'll just have a rant on her. She's freaking awesome, Mariah Martell. And she's the one that, unbowed, unbent, unbroken, the words of House Martell. And Rhaenys was going to bring back fire and blood. And she said, leave at your own peril. And we do know that Mariah backed up those words. Princess Rhaenys was killed. When she was killed, we'll get into this later. How she was killed, whether she was kept alive, tortured, blah, 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 whatever. But a scorpion bolt took down Meraxes. And that's a very important thing to note. And it's probably going to play a huge role in the books. And we can have some fun thoughts about how it's going to work in the books. I don't remember where it was I saw it, but, weirwood arrows as well. But you also have the weirwood bows, too. Anyways, she herself took John Rosby to the top of the oh my god, to the top of Spear Tower. She shoved him from the top herself at 80 years old. And this is, Aegon, everyone, they had already swept in there. They had already drank poison water, ate poison fish. They were trying to march on the Hellholt, and they're just getting shit on. And then they take Sunspear. No one's there. They declare victory. Oh, poor John Rosby is the Castellan of Sunspear for all of like a day. They come in the dead of night and take his ass. They take everyone. They have these contests to keep people captive for as long as possible before they die. So how much can you torture a reek? There's probably like 500 reeks running around in Dorne at this point in time, right? So, I mean, there's some crazy shit going on down here. Does that jog your memory at all, Sasa? John, any thoughts on the yellow toad of Dorne? And how fast can they slither in underneath the sand, man? They can all be gone within a flash, right?
I love the yellow toad of Dorne. If I were fighting a war, that's how I'd do it. That's how I think. That's how I do shit. I'm not gonna show up with my army, everybody standing out and marching lines to do this thing. No, I'd just be like, this is sneak attack guerrilla battle. Like, we're gonna rip you open from the inside out, and we're gonna make you starve. We're gonna make you die of dehydration. And those of you who survive that, well, we're going to make it even worse. Yeah, Yellow Toad of Dorne, that's my girl.
It's almost very like Tywin Lannister-esque in terms of like killing an entire army or a house by like means of other than battle, almost, which is kind of funny. Yeah, that's like all I can kind of remember, and I just feel like almost she kind of plays the Olenna card in a sense of like being so like evil, and but yet like probably if you walked up to her, she'd be like, "Hey," in a sense, like as a joke. But yeah, like that whole thing in that not relationship, but that whole thing with her and how the Martells are known for being badass.
Yeah, John is a stone Irishman.
Yeah. Oh, and there's Franco.
Here. Here's my little fucking hellhound. Ghost 2.0. Come here. Who's a good boy? Who's a good boy? Merry Christmas, Franco. Merry Christmas. Let me cut your toenails. What you saying? He's just a little bastard. I don't know why he's so angry. He doesn't ever. I don't know. He just talks to you.
Is Franco like the Grinch that stole Christmas?
He is. Like if you cover him up and you touch him after he's gone to bed, he'll just. Whoa, that's all he'll do. He'll get pissed off if you mess with him while he's sleeping.
He's the Grinch who stole Christmas. But yeah, we have it just shows the power of the Martells and how pretty much for the Yellow Toad of Martell that women pretty much were all pretty much not in power in this, minus like the Veil, but that was because I was a young kid that was in charge at that time.
Well,
So-
Dorne's equal opportunity murderers, equal opportunity everything, you know.
Well,
Yeah.
you also have Rhaenys and Visenya. I mean, they're women in some pretty serious power.
Yeah,
Ooh,
but I
and
mean,
I
like
want to get
the
into that
complete.
in just a few. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's just like in like complete power. Like they are in power, but it's their brother / husband that has supreme power over everybody else. It's just like that whole thing. It's like, yes, like technically Catelyn. I know, like, John's favorite person. Technically, like ex-person, like Catelyn Stark is technically in power, but it's her husband that is in more power standing than she is. So it's that like whole thing. It's that Dorne and like the Vale have more power than their other female counterparts.
Yeah, the Dornish are progressive in torture and in politics and in equal rights. I don't know about human rights. I don't know if you can call them like human rights activists or anything, but they are equal opportunity offenders. That's what I would classify the Dornish as. This is what really pisses me off about the show is because the Dornish are so fucking awesome and they're reduced to whatever the hell they are in the show. Go ahead, John. Defend your fellow Dornishman.
Oh, I was just gonna say agreed. Yeah. Actually, as a salty Dornish person, I'm offended by our portrayal in the show.
Yeah, it's the bad pussy, man.
It's 3 and Hilarious and
Shut up. Oh, Dennis Franz. Bubba Husky's brother had a massive Boston Terrier named Dennis Franz.
it's fun. But yeah, we can kind of talk about.
We got a couple things. My bad. Franco got me off.
Actually, Alicia has a good point. She says they're not activists, but they don't deal with fuck shit. If a woman is strong, she's allowed to stay strong. There's no weaker sex in Dorne. Like, yeah.
Very well put.
Yeah, quite well put. I mean, that's the way it is. If you're the best person to be doing this, then you do it. And yeah, show Dorne pisses me off so much.
I want to tell you something else real quick. You're gonna love this, you Dornish motherfucker. Okay, so Lord Tolan, right? You remember him from Ghost Hill? So he sends this fool in his armor to fight Aegon. Aegon whoops him and thinks he's bad as hell, chest all puffed out, only to find out he's done killed a fool. I mean, that's just classic there. And, you know, like Will of Will, the widow lover, right? The one that actually tortured, the one that took Oris Baratheon's hand. The man lived 20 years after that. I mean, you have assassins of the king, I know, looking for you personally your entire fucking life. And you just chill another 20 years, live to a ripe old age of around 60, I think. And then and in this world, that's old as hell. I mean, Mariah Martell, what kind of fucking diet was she on? It said she was big and all that, but she had to be eating some sort of right to live that damn long, right? Something. It's all the lemons.
But maybe.
She didn't get the scurvy like everybody else. And fucking Iron
Mhm.
Islanders got the scurvy.
But the Oris Baratheon comment about
Oh,
how
poor Theon. Poor Theon. Like, if on top of everything that's happened to him, if
Sorry,
like he
Sasa.
got scurvy too and lost his teeth. Sorry, I interrupted you, Sasa. But
no,
like, oh God, that would be so awful. Like, on top of everything else that's happened to you, now you have scurvy. Like, you're losing your teeth.
All you need is a fucking lemon to save your life. It's so ironic.
yeah, all you need is lemon. Oh,
Like, you're missing like 3 toes, 2 fingers, your dick, and on top of that, there go your teeth. All because you didn't eat a lemon.
Sasa, Oris Baratheon.
the Oris
sorry.
Baratheon.
Lemon teeth.
Okay, the Oris Baratheon idea, like how was it like that he lived after? I can't remember right now. My brain's kind of like after for so long, much after his hand was cut off. A lot of people expect Jaime to die, but what if he lives much longer than people expect him to? Because even though his hand was healed or like medically treated by Qyburn,
He was
there's
pretty
that
bitter
whole thing.
about it the rest of his life, though.
And Jaime's kind of like, it's not like outspokenly bitter about it. He is kind of just like, he went through a period where it was.
They both took it completely different, right?
Mhm.
Oris, a hand without a sword hand isn't a hand, basically, is what he said. And that's a great point.
Yeah,
But Jaime stepped up to the plate, right, John? Or go ahead, Kinsey.
Yeah, and it's just the thing of, because there was always that threat by Robert Baratheon that Jaime would be named Hand of the King if Ned wasn't in his place. So there could be a situation where it's almost maybe a slight reversal, because if Boris Baratheon was Hand of the King before his hand was chopped off, that it could be a reversal of roles where it's like the hand
Maybe
comes
not
after,
either.
but maybe
If you
not as
think
well.
about where Jaime is in the books, Brienne's leading into the trap that is Lady Stoneheart in the books. And he still has trust in people at this point. I wonder if that's going to break that. That's a good point. Good points, Kinsey. Sasa making the good points. Are you still there, John?
I think he might have went to.
Okay. He might have to step away for a second.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I could see that. There's a lot of handless people throughout this book. I believe, doesn't another Baratheon lose his hand?
I can't remember.
Talk about that later. That's during the Golden Wedding and all that.
Yeah,
So,
but you can talk about, I guess, the
talk
children.
about go ahead.
Said you can talk about the children or something. Whatever. If we're changing topics.
We can get into the death of Rhaenys and what all that encompasses and what really happened. Some say she died before she hit the ground. Some say she died after she hit the ground. If we take a lot of what we read in this book, more than likely she possibly lived and was tortured. There's lots of ways you can go with this, because after Mariah Martell died, her son, I think it was her son, anyways, sent his daughter, and for some reason, wherever I wrote it, I cannot find it. Sent his daughter with a letter, and I'll find it really quick. But no one knows what the letter said. Aegon gripped the throne so tightly that, well, he cut himself. Then he retreated to Dragonstone for a sabbatical of sorts. And I can't remember how long it was. Do you remember how long it was, John? Let's see here.
John, if you're talking, you're muted.
It was one night.
Okay, that's what I just wanted
It
to.
was one. It was one night. He flew to Dragonstone, and then he thought on the letter, and then he came back, and that was when he made his peace accord with Dorne.
Let's see. Okay.
You know, yeah, he thought about it for an evening, and you don't know what it is now. Oh, do either of you have any theories about what was in that letter?
I think that. Well, my simplest conclusion is that her bones were sent to Dragonstone. And that was the letter, possibly written in Rhaenys own hand under torture. Some sort of desperate letter. Or maybe that she has a son or a daughter. We have to look into this when we read more in the book, because there's lots of people that are thrown out there, and it's seemingly for no reason. And I don't think that's the case. You have what seems to be a lot of scattered Targaryens and unknown Targaryens. So she could have been pregnant with Aegon's child, or gotten pregnant by someone else. I mean, she was a queen and beautiful. And if they're going to torture her, they would do other stuff. But if you want to just bare bones, it was a letter from her own hand, and her bones were probably sent to Dragonstone, because all Targaryens' bones are interred at Dragonstone, and they're burned and their ashes scattered in Dragonstone. So that's the custom, and I would, Dorne would know that, I'm sure, because the Targaryens have been there for 50 years, if not longer, maybe 100 years. Yeah, they were there for 100 years. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it was like 100 and a few.
So that's what I think. What do you think's in the letter? Either one of y'all. It don't matter. Whoever hits the button first. Classic.
Well, okay, so the family that she was captured by, I cannot remember their name. They were a Dornish family, and they were like the Boltons of the South. Like, they were famous for torture, and I think that the Yellowtoad's son,
The Ullers.
when
That's the name of the house.
when he came to power, like, took her and let her die a peaceful death.
And his name is Prince Nymore. Just
okay.
Just looked it up.
Not to be confused with Prince Namor.
Right.
But I think he let her die a peaceful death, and sent the bones back to Dragonstone as like an honor, almost like what Tyrion does in I think it's Clash of Kings with Ned's bones. He's like, take that head off the wall. We're sending his bones back to his family. Like, I think Namor came in and probably did the same thing. I think he was like, yeah, okay, you're gonna quit torturing this poor woman. You've had your time doing that. We're gonna give her an easy death. Send her bones back to her family. And that's always been my thought. Is that's
what stopped Aegon from trying to conquer Dorne?
The fact that he stopped his sister's torture. I mean, we're talking like, I think it was 9 years or something like that. And the fact that he was like, hey, I came across this and I thought it was wrong, and I've.
You think she could have been tortured for 9 years?
Oh yeah.
And now look out for any 9-year-old children coming up in the book. Honestly, I heard something that fits that age range. I'm serious. Just because there's no telling. There's no telling. She was a very sexual person, from what I've read, and Aegon spent 10 nights for every one with her. So
No, but like that was just always my impression.
yeah,
And I may be wrong. I don't think we're ever going to be told.
probably not. It might be coming around in a roundabout way, but Kenzie, and hit that damn button.
For the letter, it may be in a sense, not well and truly completely, but it may be in the sense of maybe the pink letter in a sense, or like whatever the show adaptive version is, because it's like I'll do like the opposite of like bring me your sister and then all of this stuff will happen. It's like the opposite. It's like if you don't like attack, then all of this stuff will happen to her, maybe. Um, Something like that. It's like a reversal of like a pink letter in a sense. It's like come and like a come and see thing, and it's like the reversal maybe.
So where does okay, John, or both of y'all, if y'all can answer me this, you just made me think of something, Kenzie. House Dane, where do they originate from?
Starfall?
I know, right? So they were. The Roynar had Valyrian features to an extent, correct, John? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, sir, they did.
I'm just trying to feel, Quentin Martell, they feel like they have a connection with the dragons, right? Somehow. Why would this be?
And Darkstar.
Right. Could this be from Rhaenys having a baby down there? And this is why Aegon didn't attack. They basically had a hostage. And the peace terms, I'll send you the bones, but we're keeping the kid as a ward or whatever. And Aegon, not wanting to, he wants to keep, he was all about peace. It's stated in here. He wanted nothing more than to keep the peace. He would ride his dragon everywhere to be seen. So it would make sense for him not to tell anyone about that. It would be almost a Ned Stark situation where he would not tell anyone. It would, one, bring dishonor, and especially if the baby isn't his. If one of the Ollers knocked her up, and he did save her possibly and gave her a merciful death, but there is a child. And if you don't stop the Dornish war, which is killing his people, I will kill this child, or I will expose this child and make this child the new king, or some things like that. Because if history repeats itself, that's kind of the same thing that Alysanne Martell is wanting to do, make Marcella the queen. So I don't know, tying in a lot of things right now. I'm getting all tinfoily. You said we was going to do the LML thing today. Haha, shout out to David.
You've put a definitely nail in my shoe, because my thought that I've always had is that the Danes are just a red herring.
They may
Like,
be,
even
but
since the
something's going on.
first book, my thought has been the Danes are just a red herring.
Well, don't the
And now you put a nail in my shoe.
yeah, because
So-
the Dane have purple eyes, and that's a common feature for Targaryens.
AK
Oh.
pointed out that the Martells have tar blood because Princess Daenerys married one of the Martell princes. But wait, didn't Daenerys die at 8? Oh, there was a later Daenerys. Sorry.
Yeah, there's a
No,
couple
I'm
of things.
thinking, but this would
that'd
be
be
far sooner than that. It would make a couple of things make more sense that I've read so far, but I could be wrong.
and then
That's a
the
good
way, yeah, because a way to hide that whole situation is to have this kid become a part of this household, but to like hide it in a situation right? Develop a because the Danes were like a minor-ish, relatively minor house, but then they always served under the Martells. So even though it's not
And
technically a bastard house, it's like just underneath. So if that's a thing, and like they to protect the child, they made a house lineage. That'd be a kind of a cool thing because it may fit a timeline that we aren't used to yet.
yeah, true. Okay, makes a point about the Danes have roots from the great empire of the Dawn, and I do understand that they get their looks from that, but kind of feeding off of John's old town theory, and that were Valyrians before we thought they were Valyrians, kind of the same way that Vikings come to North America way before Christopher Columbus. And they still don't even want to accept it, even though there's actual archaeological evidence. It's the same way the Maesters don't want to accept things. Uh, not saying that means anything, but I think there could be actual blood mixed in there. Just from a baby would make sense. But that's my crazy theory. And that would have all the power over Aegon. Because he was the conqueror. It's completely out of character for him to just say, I'm going to stop for no reason.
Yeah, but on the same
It
note,
had,
there was a reason he went to Dragonstone.
yes. I
And
think
there's a
that's
reason he spent one night there and came back.
it's like a
And it was
vigil,
right
right?
after he got the letter. Like, I think there has to be something to that.
It could be a thing where it was at two odds. Where it's like where you are either like I can do this and I can go attack Dorne if this is what we're going with, or it's just probably to get away because that's probably one of the last places that they probably had like a moment. Not like that. They didn't have moments together in Westeros, but like they've had like a special moment, or maybe that's like place was so connected to their relationship and their family. That's a thing because probably he wasn't very comfortable. Maybe with then like what would become Red Keep, King's Landing, and all of that stuff. It's like it's that connection, and it's one of his sister and wives. So, and
His
he only
favorite,
needed escape.
arguably.
Yeah, and the escapism of reality, because sometimes that happens with people is that they usually go to a place that makes them happy, or a place that after someone passes away that reminds them of beforehand. So,
Yeah,
know.
I definitely think her bones were sent there. What was done with her? She's probably tortured. The letter could be
Alicia's
in
got a
her
really good
hand.
point here. I'm sorry to interrupt you, John. I was just saying Alicia has a really good point here in the chat. Um, he wanted to keep it quiet. He didn't even tell Visenya,
Mm-mm.
like, because he knew she would carry on the war.
Yeah, she would undoubtedly carry on the war. She is that type of person, for sure. She is fierce, and she would let nothing stop her, uh, even if they were a child of her sister. It had to be enough. Like it had to be drastic. It had to be more than like I do think her bones were sent to Dragonstone. He had a vigil, but there is something way deeper. There's something that really cuts to the core of Aegon that he's not gonna let this happen. He can't risk some consequence to him personally, not to Visenya, not to anyone else, to a consequence to his own person or his offspring. So yeah, don't know where I'm going with it, but
It actually
well,
makes a pretty nice segue. What do you think of uh, Aegon's relationship with his two sisters? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, it basically from family tradition had to marry Visenya. And it's the traditional duty and love thing. I wonder if it was more than that. I wonder if, 3 heads of the dragon. They're talking about this in the future. Could this have been some type of prophecy in the past as well? Or a different prophecy? Yeah, you had many, Dany's the dreamer. You can argue whether she dreamed or not. You have to also remember these people have glass candles. That's something we're not mentioning. There are still glass candles. There are a lot of glass candles around. They're not mentioning them, but I know they're there.
Don't get me started on glass candles. We'll be here for like 5 hours.
Yeah, we'll talk about that another day. We'll have a special on glass candles. uh, so I wouldn't doubt there'd be some kind of prophecy to where his parents told Aegon, or Aegon thought that he had to marry both of his sisters. Uh, I, to basically make them equal. I mean, Visenya and Rhaenys and Orys Baratheon ruled more than Aegon did. Honestly, Aegon was kind of a figurehead. So I would say that maybe they had a Tywin Lannister type father that strategically took their characteristics and said, "Hey, I think you three would work as a team for life." It would seem something Valyrian to do to make matches to make this best scenario. Could have been the dream of the father to conquer Westeros. We don't have a.
Well, I think that's Tywin's failure is that he didn't see the qualities that his kids had. As smart as he was, Tywin didn't see the qualities that his children had. Like he wanted to make Jaime his heir. He
needs some hair
didn't
too,
realize.
so.
Yeah, that too. He didn't realize that Tyrion was at least as brilliant as he was, if not more so. And he didn't realize how powerful of a manipulative person Cersei could be. Like he never thought about it, and I think that's Tywin's big failure.
I definitely agree with that. I'm just being equating to trying to someone in the family looking ahead to the future and seeing something there. It doesn't even have to be a vision or a dream, which I don't know. This family does seem to be prone to visions and dreams, though, as we've seen.
Well, it does say in the book that it is Valyrian, or it has been accustomed by the Dragon Lords in Valyria to marry brother to sister. So it was more common that he would have had to pick one to marry. And it just happens, I guess, that he obviously didn't have another brother for Visenya to marry. So.
Oh, that makes good point. And also, if you think about the culture they come from a culture of strategizing to try to beat one another out. They were just a bunch of warring archons. That's a good point. Keep going, Kenzie.
Yeah, it's just the fact that probably they didn't obviously have a younger brother after Visenya. So, because it says that it's just one, it looked like it was just one sister to one brother. So it just maybe he, instead of.
Visenya was the oldest sibling.
Yeah, or yeah, the thing. It's just like one or the other, like one on one, but it's just instead of like the addition of that, maybe because he knew that the tradition was so strong, and also there's the whole thing of keeping the bloodline, especially the Dragon Rider bloodline, together, that having the sister that he favored more marry someone else, to marry her as well.
But you still did have the Valerians who had Valyrian blood.
Yeah.
She could have married. I think, or it could have been a fact where Rhaenys refused to marry anyone but Aegon. You could have had one of those scenarios. You see that a lot uh, throughout these relationships. That even and I feel honestly like Visenya resented them too her whole life, and it slowly built up. And there's whispers of treason, poison. She did do some crazy shit to get Maegor on the throne, it seems. Right? There's some weird things going on there, but we haven't got into the sons, the three heads
The
had the
thing,
dragon yet. So
it's interesting because this book is supposed to be written by the same writer, and Visenya, the way she's portrayed in these first three chapters that we're talking about, and the way she's portrayed after, are almost two different characters.
it really is.
Like,
It's almost like a Catelyn Lady Stoneheart situation in the vastness of who they like
well,
and how different
I'd
they
say the
become.
backwards, because I'd say Lady Stoneheart was a lot nicer and
Well,
more
you know what
pleasant
I
to be
mean.
around than Catelyn.
You know what I mean. Yeah, she has much better
And
conversation.
probably a better mom too, but I digress.
No. It's okay.
So Kenzie, favorite sister, Rhaenys or Visenya?
On what, like, just in
Just
general?
in general. Yeah. Neither one of them had red hair, so you can't pick that way.
Damn it! No way to do that. I think maybe I relate more to Rhaenys, but then I also have like the whole like that's so cool, like with the Visenya thing. So it's like probably just more the relatability factor in Rhaenys. Even though like I would want to be like Visenya as well, but it's I feel like I more connect with her story arc.
I can see that. I can see that. You love the harp, and you like being a matchmaker and frolicking with the people and riding your dragon everywhere.
It's totally me. Yeah, all those things. Pet dragon. Damn right.
I Rhaenys is very tragic, and Visenya seems to have these I don't know, these insane struggles that it seems like within herself, but I wish there was some more expansion on it because she seems like such a complex character. As John was saying, she seems like two different people. But I think the beginning of the book was wrote by a different maester from what we saw. I know this is an amalgamation put together by the maester that wrote this book. So that's the only thing I would add to that. And I mean, we would not have a Kingsguard without Visenya and Dark Sister cutting Aegon's cheek. Waka! And I thought that was really cool. A lot of we had the rule of thumb from Rhaenys too, and the rule of six, right? So you can only beat your wife with a with a stick the size of your thumb, and you can only hit her 6 times because the seventh time's for the stranger now. And the same thing would happen if the man would have to get the punishment if he broke the rule of thumb or the rule of six. So I don't know. A little caning, anyone? Anybody thoughts? Am I just gonna fill up this whole time gushing
No.
about these people?
John.
I would hang out with Rhaenys. Like, I'd be like, Rhaenys, I got a ball of scotch. Let's go party.
We like Rhaenys. What's up?
Like, let's go hang out. Like, we'll put on some Dead. We'll hang out, drink a bottle of whiskey, talk. On the other hand, if I wanted shit getting done, I'd be like, Visenya, please. You know,
she
you're
was
more badass than I am, even if I'm the king. So
she was a staunch militant, right? And then even even in her old age, she didn't let it get her down, and
well, it's arguable that in her old age she let it rule her life, and that's why she made some really poor decisions.
and I begin to wonder sometimes. Glamours do different things, right? They're not just cover up. Uh, I don't know. I have to look into this more, but I know Dark Sister has a ruby in the hilt, right? If I'm
I
not mistaken.
either
Think-
ruby or bloodstone.
Mhm.
It's definitely redstone though. I think you're right. I think it's a ruby.
We will talk more about that later because we're going to get into Anis and Magor in the next stream. But right now, uh, I guess we'll go
What?
a little bit back.
John, do you want to talk about the fact that the color of the dragon predicts the color of their fire? Because was that revealed in
That's
this
really
chapter?
cool. Well, that was revealed a little bit. We do see Valerion's fire is black with whiffs of red through it, here and there. I mean, it's so hot that it actually melted the stone, and the stones look like candles in the nightlight. It's a very scary and awesome visual when you think about it. But Harren the Black was an idiot, right? To that aspect, he was an idiot. How do you not like a stone doesn't burn? But he had
Yeah.
all this hemp, he had all this straw in there. He knew that was in there. I don't
Harren the
know.
Black is everything that makes me ashamed to be an Islander. You know,
Like he's an oxymoron. He conquered all this shit, built this
but then you don't
fantastic
know what to
place.
do with it. Then you don't know what to do with it. Like, what do? You build this big fucking castle that bankrupts your entire
It's not even that. He
economy.
doesn't
Like,
like you don't know what a dragon's
you
gonna
piss all
do.
these you can't piss off the small folk that often, and then yeah, you don't know what a dragon's gonna do. Like, it. Uh, Harren the Black was freaking moron.
Well, King Lodos, he had the answer. He called on the Krakens, but they didn't freaking come. So he stuffed his robes full of rocks and walked out into the ocean to talk with the drowned god. Hey, he came back a
Yeah.
couple generations later. We'll talk about that. Crazy bastard. Oh man, there's some, and yeah, we get a little bit of mention of the warrior sons, the stars and swords, the fates militant kind of that we thought, yeah, that Aegon would have some opposition to this, right? But the Archmaester, no, damn it, what's his name?
Arch-Septon.
The High Septon at the time, well, he prayed on it for what, 6 days, and on the seventh day he came out or whatever. Said the crone
Aegon was
guided
a
him.
brilliant politician. Aegon, more than anything, more than dragons, more than burning Harrenhal, more than any of that crap, Aegon was a brilliant politician. He knew how to pull people together. The only thorn in his side was the Dornish, and that's because they're fucking Dornish. They're
Well, you can argue that Aegon wouldn't be Aegon without his sister mingling with the people and Visenya being such a hard ass. Aegon by himself
oh no, I'm just
would have
talking
to
about
kind of disagree. But yes, yes, yes,
the,
I know what
the way he did things is what I mean.
yeah.
Like he knew when to use the rod and when to use the carrot.
Right, a mix of fear and compassion. And I
Like
think without both of his sisters, he wouldn't have had that. And that's why I feel like the family had more to do with that marriage than we're led to believe. I think this story about wed out of love and wed out of duty is like these fake stories we hear about knights and John Keel and Florian and all that bullshit. That's what I think that is. But let's see. What would be like? I know there's one more big thing you wanted to talk about, John and Kenzie, anything you particularly want to talk about, and then that's how we'll wrap it up. What y'all both want to talk about with what y'all have read? Anything else stand out? I mean, no pressure. We don't have to fill up the rest of the time. We've already been going like an hour and 20 minutes, so.
Well, okay. I'm sorry. I read the entire book, so I'm trying to think of what in this specific small space that I talked to you about, because I.
Well, what about the Kingsguard vows being modeled after the Night's Watch? What were your thoughts on that? We already knew this, but the way it's laid out and everything in here, it's kind of
White
very
and
poetic.
black, and yeah, well, and that's the thing, that the Night's Watch, there's a lot of evidence that a number of the oaths that they take came later. Whereas the Kingsguard, those oaths have been around for the 300 years that the Kingsguard have been around. I mean, the Night's Watch, if we take the history by its alleged account, has been around for 10,000 years.
Yeah.
The Night's Watch has been around for 300. And so their oaths, I think, are a lot more modeled after this more idealistic thing. But then,
Okay. Can I say Merry Christmas and hey to Lauren's Corner and Jake Cruz real quick? Sorry, before I want to give them a shout out before I forgot. Go ahead. My bad.
oh no, absolutely. I Merry Christmas to all. To all a good night, because I'm going to bed.
You better,
Again.
man. Need some
too.
sleep, bro.
Well, this is like I went on Lauren's stream earlier. Like, that's the middle of the night for me. Like 10 in the morning is the middle of the night for me.
Vampire.
Bartender, it's kind of the same thing.
A little bit. You suck tips out of people.
Yeah, the fact that we have the development of the Kingsguard in this is kind of cool, because how much it lasted, pretty much until now. Now they don't really, like, at least in the show, talk much about the Kingsguard anymore, especially with Cersei, because it seems it's just the mountain. That's like.
It's like there's the Black Cloaks or something. Have we even? That is a good point. I don't know that do we still see the Kingsguard after Cersei switched to black? I can't remember. All I can remember is just everybody being in black.
Yeah, and it's just like Robert Strong. It's Robert Strong, or the Mountain.
Robert Strong.
Is like
a shout out to Harren Hall and Larys Clubfoot, Larys Strong. The last of the Strongs. The real Strongs.
Larys Strong.
Mm-hmm.
Larys Strong. I think he's still alive.
As Varys. I don't think they're. I mean, they have so much in common, but a lot of differences too. We'll have to do a stream kind of just on that one day when we get to that part of the book, because Larys Clubfoot's pretty damn cool. And his last wish before he was died is chop my foot off, because I've been lugging it around my whole life. I don't want to lug it around in the afterlife as well. I thought that was just a damn hell of a way to go out. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, we have the development of the Kingsguard, which becomes vitally important as time goes on. I guess from what I remember, and they even have it until pretty much recently, because they don't really, unless it's part of consolidation, they don't really talk about the Kingsguard as much, because the only like named members when we start the book / the show is Jaime and Barristan. Really, and like Meryn Trant, like, and there's supposed to be like 7. So, and I guess there was only 7 because of
the Hound was promoted to
Kingdoms.
Kingsguard too at one point. He's not anymore, I know, but still.
7 kingdoms, 7 faces of God.
Yeah, 7.
7's figured in a lot.
Yeah, 7 kingdoms.
7-breasted ferret. I don't know if there was 7-breasted but I was just throwing that out there because the ferret god with all the boobs is funny.
Mhm.
You know, that's the god of phrase.
And
Oh
even
my
the
gosh, there might be a connection there. Go ahead. I just thought
and the
of
funny
that.
thing is, to add to the 7, there will be presumably 7 books for Game of Thrones. Dun dun dun.
Oh, you want to know the first Kingsguard are Sir Richard Root, Sir Addison Hill, bastard of Cornfield, Sir Gregor Good, Sir Griffith Good, his brother, Sir Humphrey the Mummer, the brave companion shout out, Sir Robin Darkland, which called Dark Robin. That's just a badass sounding dude, right? I love that last name. And I believe is where are the Darklands? They're kind of near where the Brackens and Blackwoods are on the map, right? If I'm not
I think
mistaken.
so. Yeah, I think they're
Um,
Riverlanders.
and then Sir
If
Corliss
somebody in the chat knows better, please correct me. But I do think you're right. I do think they're Riverlanders.
Hey dog, what's up? Merry Christmas, my friend. And the first Lord Commander of the Kingsguard is Sir Corliss Valerion of House Valerion of Driftmark, who is they're like a cousin family to the Targaryens, kind of. They have Valerian stock, but they're very loosely related. That's what ties them. They're probably the closest house to the Targaryens for the longest time, for a very long time, up until you get into past Allen and all that, past the Sea Snake. The Sea Snake's awesome. Once we get to the Sea Snake, we got to talk about him. And his son. Yeah, that's just. I mean, there's a lot of stuff here, but a lot of, we're gonna have a laid back Christmas special. A lot of the first 50 pages make you think, oh, it's gonna be nothing but everything from World of Ice and Fire, and then you get to about page 32 and starts throwing you curveballs. Um, so that's really awesome. I don't.
History's told from the perspective of the writer. Like there's that famous phrase, "History's told by the winner," but even more so, history's told from the perspective of the writer. And I think that's one of my biggest takeaways from this book. Is this is Master Grey Rat Galarian's view of it. Freaking gray rats all over the place. Like you think you get rid of them, and then you open your door, and they're like 20 of them hanging out there.
Getting rid of them fuckers.
No, I can write my own damn letters.
What have you thought of the book so far, Kenzie?
Up until this point, or
yeah, up until this point, and then we'll
up until up until this chapter, you can kind of see that we kind of knew. Well, because going into this, through World of Ice and Fire, through the main story, and kind of, sort of, a little bit in the TV show, we know at least the names of the three people, as well as their 3 dragons, and how, through storytelling, what actually happened. Only a small fraction. So when you're going into this, a lot you think, we talked about this earlier with me and John, but when you go into this book, you presume that it's going to be just like, this is what happened, these were the dates that they lived, da 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 da, like a book that they would have pretty much for the lords and ladies of Westeros, like, and this is how they died, this is how many kids they had, and this is what happened during their reign, X, Y, Z, with minimal details. This goes into pretty much characters that we kind of know and understand, but makes them fully fleshed characters. And you kind of see like their more or less their background, and like how they feel, and like pretty much kind of like how they acted, even though it is from a, you can say, a skewed perspective, it makes them more well-rounded, which is awesome. And I think Jerm was even quoted by saying, if Dany had to read this book, she'd be surprised at actually what is revealed in
She
this
could learn a
book.
lot from this book. I think it's one thing he said too. Yeah.
That she
Yeah,
could
she
learn a lot.
learned not to be such a petulant teenage child.
Oh, and John's.
But she has no way to access it. I know. I saw
Yeah.
myself drop that time, but she has no way to access it. And he made it all snarky. So I thought that was funny. And the Mad King's daughter. People can't stand me for saying that, but
And
she's right there, man. She's
Yeah.
right there.
and the last bit is
Man,
that we gotta have part 2 coming soon. So it's confirmed after Wins that there will be a volume 2 / part 2. Maybe even after Dream of Spring. Who knows? But it's coming.
So, John, next week you're gonna come back and we're gonna talk the Sons of the Dragon, a little bit of Aenys and Maegor,
Yeah.
a little bit of Visenius dark arts.
What
And her looking
What
into.
do we maybe take the next 3 chapters?
Yeah, that sounds good. It'd be. The
Oh,
Sons
I
of the
think
Dragon.
chapter 6 is like really long though.
Let me see real
If I
quick. I'll
remember
check it out.
correctly. Chapter
we've got a
6 is like
week.
70 pages.
Oh, we might just do 2 chapters. Let me see what it is. Y'all can talk while I'm doing this.
So my final question, Rhaenys or Visenya? Who would you marry?
Oh, I would marry Rhaenys because
If you
fucking
couldn't have
Visenya would
both.
murder me in my sleep.
What about you, Kenzie?
It's really awkward that I feel like I'd pick the version of myself, even though that'd be very boring. But yeah, myself. It's like myself, but as a Targaryen version. And AK made a funny comment about when we were talking about Dany reading Fire and Blood. She says she'd prefer that Viserys read Fire and Blood over Dany. As she says, his thoughts on his family are seriously skewed in his memory. So,
Alicia, I would just like to say, I feel like I'd have a better chance of swooning Rhaenys than I would Visenya. Let's just put it that way. I'd feel just a little safer. Not saying Visenya couldn't kill me. Any person can kill you in your sleep. The one most likely? Definitely Visenya. She'll dark sister right through your dick hole. But she is badass. I'd definitely be her friend. Wouldn't stay in the same keep as her.
I'd marry Visenya.
there you go. Split with the sister.
Outside of her killing me, I wouldn't worry about anybody killing me while I'm
As a
asleep.
shadow baby, John, do you get like any kind of compensation in Westeros? John's a shadow baby.
They give me a minor stipend.
He gets Westerosi wick.
Yeah, it's not very good. It's like government cheese. And
Oh, so I figured it out. We're gonna do the next 2 chapters, my friend, because it's gonna be like the next 2 chapters are over 80 pages for both of them. But it's 2 really good chapters, and I think it's a good stopping point because it's the Sons of the Dragon.
yeah, because like that next chapter 6 is like what 70 pages or something like that.
No, it's not chapter 6. Chapter 5. No, actually, chapter 4 is 60 something pages, and then chapter 5 is like 20 pages. It'll be the Sons of the Dragon and then Prince and the King, the Ascension of Jaehaerys I. So we're gonna basically be talking all about Aenys and Maegor probably.
Oh, and you want to talk about like fanboy? Like, if you think he's an Aegon fanboy, oh my gosh, he's a big Jaehaerys fanboy. He's like, oh, Jaehaerys, you're so great. Like, everything you do is so wonderful.
Jaehaerys is decent.
Jaehaerys is decent, but I'm sure there are some things that are glossed over. Which, like I said, this is what I love about this writing style is because it's history, but it's
they seem to be
biased
very
history.
romanticized, and we'll get into that. They do seem to be very romanticized. But there are some things that call into question that. Some like rumors that probably aren't rumors, they're probably truths. And then, we get into mushroom a little later. Yeah. All hell mushroom. But yeah, the next one we'll be talking about Aenys, Maegor, the rise of Jaehaerys, and like the million babies
Megawar.
scattered everywhere. Maegor and
You gotta
his
do the little
bride.
extra head
Yes,
when you talk about Megawar.
not Maegor. No, it's is it Maegor? Hold on.
I'm pretty sure Megawar is the one who had the extra head.
No.
Like
Hold
basket
on.
case.
No, that's a later Maegor. Maegor the
Okay.
but I think I
Not
got
that
the name
specific
wrong.
one.
Still, basket case, great movie.
Hold
If you get the opportunity to watch it, it's twisted and disturbing.
Yeah. Lauren's asked me if anybody else is drunk yet. Not me. John?
I'm okay.
It's okay, everyone. No, I can't find it. Anyways, I think it's fucking Maegor.
It's a different one
Starts with
because
an M. It's Maegor the First.
it's a different one because AK said it's Malus the Monstrous had two
Melee's
heads.
is the one with the extra head. See, you made me second guess myself, John. Thank you.
Sorry.
No, thank you, AK. See, I have so many names in my head that I don't even think I'm right half the time when I say them, and most of the time I say them like I don't even know the names. But I'm surprised I remember them all. Too many TV shows, too many books, too little time. But you got to do something right. So sometime around this time next week, would you say, John, or nighttime, whenever the hell we'll figure out when to get you here. And next week we'll be covering the next two chapters. So,
Yeah.
be ready for that. And would you like to tell
Would
everyone?
say next maybe Thursday afternoon, Friday afternoon.
Would you like to? Okay, sounds good. Would you like to tell everyone what coffin you hail from?
Yes, I am John, House St. Baptiste. I hail from the coffin of
Not the Black Bat of Harrenhal, I guess.
Tyrell.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm not gonna go through the whole like 9 hours of things that drinks and knows things does, because it's like.
So this is brought to you by John's Tampons. Go out and get John's Tampons today. No, I know what you mean. We should get a little more better like that. But thank you everyone in the chat.
Thank you
Mackenzie,
for pulling me on your Christmas stream, John.
what's going on tomorrow, Mackenzie? Oh, no problem, my friend. Merry Christmas. Mackenzie, what's going on?
So tomorrow we have season 2, episode 7 of Episode Club, aka Game of Thrones, with A Man Without Honor. So that I think is the
John will be on the panel
then. Yeah, if he's available. But it's the episode with more Egret being sassy. Something else happened. I think it's another Santa torture scene, I think, or something. I can't remember what exactly happened.
Is Oral in this episode?
Orel? I don't think they come. I think they come next episode because it's with when they get to Mance and all that. Yeah, because John fights Corin, I think, in episode 8. So,
Okay.
yeah, it's all that stuff. I couldn't remember what else happens because I haven't watched it yet. But, the secrets of Episode Club. But we have that. And I recorded the audio for the Danny video. I just have to mix it and put it in, and then that should be out tomorrow.
Okay, good. Stranger Things should be coming soon. We also have Vikings Friday, which is going to be another Berserker brunch.
That's to be
Tolkien starts Probably on Thursday. Tomorrow I'm going to read the first 3 chapters, and I'll be doing my recap on Thursday, most likely.
Nice.
So anyone who has never read The Lord of the Rings, I read it once a year. I have every year since I was 13 years old. Far too long ago. And I'm going 3 chapters at a time, and I'm going to recap them and talk about them. And I think I'm going to do it in a premiere style where people can come and I'll just sit in the chat and talk to them about whatever questions they have. But if you've never done it, this is something that there's a reason I've read this book over 25 times. Like, it's good shit, is the technical term for anything Tolkien. Because, dude, I can't think of anybody else who Led Zeppelin wrote songs about.
Very true.
Except for Aleister Crowley, but we'll give him a pass on that because Aleister Crowley was just like a horrible writer. It's not the content, just like the quality of the content was pretty awful.
Well, with that note, old cue ball himself will come back to haunt you, and no.
I'll be another newbie. There you go. I'm another first timer. It's another moniker that I have on my.
It's the first time for everything. But Merry Christmas, everyone, and thank you so much for coming out, you guys. I love y'all. Thank you for being on the panel, my friends. And Lauren should be coming back on very soon. So go over to Lauren's corner, or I will haunt you in your dreams because I am a ghost.
Yep. You'll be the ghost of Christmas past.
I am of Ghost Hill. I will retreat into the sands and just watch you die.
So if he's the ghost of Christmas past, who's the ghost of present and future? We gotta pick between you and I. I'll be the jolly fat dude. I'll be the jolly fat dude. You get to be Death, Kenzie.
Oh, fine. Okay, fine.
All right, everyone. Before we get off the rails too much, I've had such a great time today. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you all for coming out.
Cheers.
Talk to you soon. Silent John's Friday night, 9 Eastern. Boom.